I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these stories, but here we are. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years. We got married pretty young, and for the most part, I'd say our life was okay, nothing spectacular, but stable enough. We had our routines. I worked a decent job, Lisa was a nurse, and we had our little home in the suburbs. The thing is, lately, I'd started noticing small cracks in the surface. Little things that didn't add up, her phone buzzing at odd hours, her suddenly being busy with work when I try to spend time with her, or her snapping at me over nothing. I figured maybe I was just paranoid or overthinking, but something felt off. Then, about 2 months ago, I got my service dog, Max. He's a big, gentle lab, and he's been a game changer for me. I have some anxiety issues, and Max really helps ground me. We trained him with a special vest that has a tiny camera inside, primarily to monitor his behavior and make sure he's safe. But I also set it up so I could check on him when I wasn't around, just to make sure he was okay. Honestly, it became a bit of a security blanket. I never really thought much about it until I started noticing things that made me suspicious. It all started one night when I was out of town for work. Lisa was supposed to be at her sister's place, and I checked the camera that night. Max was in his usual spot, sleeping near the front door. But then I saw a guy, some young trainer named Jake, come into our house. Normally, I'd think nothing of it. Lisa told me she hired someone to help with Max because he was a bit anxious around other people. But what threw me off was the way she greeted him. It wasn't just friendly. There was something almost possessive about her tone. She kept touching his arm, leaning into him, whispering things I honestly didn't want to imagine. The worst part, I caught her on camera with her hand on his chest, leaning in way too close. I replayed the footage, and I swear my stomach dropped. After the visit, I checked the calendar, and sure enough, Lisa had lied about him coming by that week. She told me she was busy with extra shifts at the hospital, but the footage clearly showed her welcoming him in, giggling, and behaving like she was in some kind of affair. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, my wife, was cheating on me with someone who was supposed to be here helping us, who was supposed to be just a trainer. I knew I had to confront her. I waited until she got home that evening, kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. When she walked in, I just looked at her, holding the footage on my phone. I played it back, slow and loud. Her face went pale, and for a second she looked genuinely caught off guard. Then her mask of disdain slid back into place. She started lying right away, calling it all a misunderstanding, saying Jake was just helping with Max, that I was overreacting. But I wasn't buying her bullshit. I'd caught her lying about so much lately. I knew she was capable of worse. Her reaction was typical, shrill, defensive, full of excuses. She threw her hands up, called me paranoid, said I was reading too much into it, that I was imagining things. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me like this with someone who was supposed to be part of our lives? I wanted to believe she just had a moment of weakness, but deep down I knew this was just the beginning. That was the night everything changed. After that confrontation, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying everything she said, everything I saw on the footage. Her voice, her dismissiveness, how she almost seemed to enjoy lying to my face. Part of me wanted to believe she was just caught up in some stupid flirtation, some passing thing she'd regret. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. This was more than just a fling. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than I expected. The next morning, I decided to dig a little further. I started going through her phone when she wasn't looking. Not in a creepy, obsessive way, but enough to see if I could catch her in another lie. She was sloppy, leaving messages open, typing things that didn't quite add up. I saw texts from Jake, full of suggestive emojis, late-night messages about seeing her again soon, and her telling him she missed him already. My stomach turned. It was all right there, clear as day. She'd been hiding this from me, lying about her whereabouts, all while acting like everything was normal. I needed proof, something more concrete. So I set up a hidden camera in our bedroom, just in case. I don't know if I was trying to catch her in the act or just make sure I wasn't losing my mind. The day went by painfully slow, and when she came home that evening, She was her usual bitchy self, snapping at me over dinner about how I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She denied everything, of course, but the look in her eyes was guilty. I kept quiet, just watching her reactions, knowing I had enough to finally put her in a corner. Later that night, I turned on the hidden camera in the bedroom. I wanted to see if she'd slip up again or if I could catch her in something even worse. I didn't want to believe she'd be stupid enough to cheat right under my nose, but I also knew her well enough to know she could be reckless when she thought she'd get away with it. Sure enough, around midnight, she went into the bathroom and I saw her text Jake again, confirming plans to meet the next day. The words, "Can't wait to see you again," flashed across the screen and my stomach coiled up tight. That was the moment I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, that she was just being friendly. She was cheating on me, and she was lying about it every step of the way. What hit me hardest was realizing she had been doing this for weeks, maybe longer, right under my nose. The woman I married, who had always acted like she was above cheating, had betrayed me so openly. I felt like my whole world was crashing down. I looked at her, this bitchy, manipulative woman who thought she could lie her way out of anything, and I felt an intense mixture of anger, hurt, and disgust. I also knew I had to do something about it. I couldn't just let her get away with this. I started planning my next move, knowing I needed a way to catch her red-handed or get more proof before I said anything. But even as I plotted, I couldn't shake that gnawing feeling. This was going to destroy everything, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to recover from it. The trust was gone. The love was shattered. And all I kept wondering was how I'd let it get this far. How did I not see the signs? How could someone I trusted so completely turn out to be this good at hiding a secret? The thing is, I never imagined I'd be in a situation like this. I thought I knew Lisa, thought she was loyal, maybe even a little bitchy, but still faithful. Turns out I was dead wrong. And now I had to figure out what to do next, how to confront her, how to handle the betrayal, and how I was going to pick up the pieces of what was left. The next day, I woke up with a pounding headache and a racing mind. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. If I didn't do something, I'd be stuck in this nightmare forever. I spent the morning gathering all the evidence I could find, the footage from Max's vest, the texts from her phone, the recordings from the hidden camera in the bedroom. It all painted the same damning picture. Lisa's lies, her dismissiveness, her blatant cheating. I knew I had to confront her, but I also wanted to be prepared. I wanted her to see I wasn't going down without a fight. That afternoon, I decided to invite her out for a talk. I told her I needed to discuss some things about our relationship. She was suspicious, of course, but she played it cool, her usual bitchy smirk plastered on her face. We went to a little cafe nearby, away from the house, thinking maybe I'd get her to open up. But I already knew what I wanted to say. I took out my phone and played the footage of her with Jake at the house. Her face turned white, and for a second I thought she might faint. She tried to brush it off, calling it stupid and nothing, claiming Jake was just helping with the dog, that I was overreacting. But I cut her off. I told her exactly what I'd seen, played the recordings, showed her the texts. Her reaction was classic: denial, then anger, then the bitchy laugh she always had when she thought she was winning. She told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that she loved me but she'd never do something so disgusting as cheat. I knew she was lying, but hearing her say it made my blood boil even more. I was furious, but I kept my cool. I looked her in the eye and told her I'd had enough of her lies. That I wasn't going to be some fool who gets betrayed and doesn't do anything about it. I told her I knew about Jake, about the nights she snuck out, about the emotional affair she'd been hiding, that I had proof, and I wasn't going to let her pretend everything was fine anymore. She looked at me, her face twisting into a sneer, and said I was crazy, that I was blowing things out of proportion, and that I was accusing her of things she didn't do. But I wasn't going to back down. I told her she could keep lying, but I wasn't going to stay married to someone who didn't respect me enough to tell the truth, that I'd had enough of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her cheating. I told her I'd decide what to do next, but I wasn't going to be played anymore. That was the moment I saw her real face, the sneering, manipulative side that I'd ignored for too long. She looked at me with pure contempt, and I knew I'd made my choice. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. That night after she stormed out of the house, I sat alone, staring at the evidence spread out on my phone. The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt everything: anger, sadness, disappointment, even a tiny flicker of relief that I finally knew the truth. I'd always suspected something, but now I knew for sure. She'd been cheating on me with Jake, lying to my face, and I had the proof. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could someone I trusted so much do this? How could she look me in the eyes and lie like she didn't care? The pain was overwhelming, but at the same time I realized I'd be okay. I'd survive this. I had to. I spent the rest of the night thinking about what I really wanted. Did I want to try to fix things? Or was it over? Honestly, it was hard to see a way forward when I felt so betrayed. But one thing was clear: she wasn't going to get away with this without consequences. I was done hiding my feelings or pretending everything was fine. I was going to take control of this mess, no matter how ugly it got. And as I sat there, feeling the weight of the betrayal crush down on me, I made a vow: I'd get through this. I'd find a way to come out stronger, even if right now it didn't seem possible. The following days were a blur of planning and emotional fallout. I kept replaying everything in my mind: her sneering face, the texts from Jake, the way she lied so effortlessly. It was like waking up from a nightmare, except it was real and I was the one stuck in it. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every time I saw her, I felt this weird mix of anger and disgust. She had taken so much from me: my trust, my respect, the sense that I knew who she was. Now I was just left with questions and a gnawing ache in my chest. I decided I needed to do something about the evidence I had. I set up another meeting with her, knowing I had to confront her face to face, not just through recordings or texts. I wanted her to see I was serious. So I told her I wanted to talk about our marriage, what it meant, what we both wanted. She agreed, of course, with that bitchy smirk still on her face, thinking she had the upper hand. When she arrived that evening, I kept my calm, but inside I was boiling. I played her the recordings from Max's vest and the hidden camera. Watching her reaction was almost satisfying: the flicker of panic crossing her face, the way she tried to brush it off. Her voice trembled when she lied, trying to tell me it was just a helpful session with Jake, that I was overreacting. But I cut her off, telling her I had enough, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I explained how I discovered her texts with Jake, how I saw her sneaking around, how I knew about the nights she left the house. Her response was predictable: denial, deflection, insults. She called me paranoid, accused me of being insecure, said I was crazy for trusting her. I couldn't believe her audacity, how she could lie so smoothly while knowing I had all this evidence. It was like she thought she was untouchable, that she could just manipulate her way out of it. I told her I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, not anymore. That she had broken my trust beyond repair, and I didn't see how we could fix this. I told her I was done with her lies, done with her bitchy attitude, and that I'd be leaving soon. She looked at me, her face twisted into contempt, and snapped back that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous because she was more attractive than me, that Jake was just a friend. Yeah, right. That was her typical way of twisting everything around, making it seem like I was the one with the problem. The moment I decided I was done was the moment everything shifted. I didn't want to argue anymore. I just wanted her gone. I told her I was going to file for divorce and that I'd take full custody of Max, my loyal dog who, even in all this chaos, was the one thing keeping me sane. Watching her try to deny it all, trying to act like she was innocent, made my stomach turn. She was so good at lying, at pretending she cared, but I had enough. I saw her true face now: the bitchy, manipulative woman who'd betrayed everything we had. That night, I went to bed feeling a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief because I finally uncovered the truth and was taking control. Sorrow because I still loved her, even if she had turned into someone I didn't recognize. I knew I'd have to face the fallout: divorce papers, her tears, the angry accusations. But honestly, I didn't care about any of that right now. All I cared about was moving forward, even if it meant rebuilding from the ashes of a marriage I thought was unbreakable. I kept telling myself I'd survive. I had to. because the only thing that mattered now was healing, whether that was alone or eventually finding someone who actually deserved my trust. The betrayal had cut deep, but I'd learned to live with it, somehow. Over the next few days, I focused on gathering everything I needed for the divorce. I contacted a lawyer, gathered our financial documents, and made sure I had all the evidence laid out clearly. I wanted her to see I wasn't playing around. This wasn't going to be some quick, messy split. I was serious about making sure she paid for what she did. I also spent a lot of time with Max, who's been my anchor through all this. That dog's loyalty is unshakable, and honestly, he's the only one who truly understands what happened. Lisa, on the other hand, was losing her mind. She tried to act like everything was fine initially, but it was obvious she was cracking under the pressure. She started calling me nonstop, begging, crying, trying to shame me into dropping the divorce. She accused me of ruining her life, said I was overreacting, and even tried to turn it around on me, claiming I was the one cheating or lying. I just blocked her calls and told her I'd speak to her through the lawyer. No more games. I didn't want her manipulating me anymore. Not after all she'd done. One night she came over unexpectedly, clearly drunk, looking like she'd been crying for hours. Her makeup was smudged, her voice slurred. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance, swearing she'd never do it again, that she loved me. Her bitchy attitude was still there, but underneath I saw a woman desperate and broken. I looked at her and honestly felt nothing. Just a numbness, like I'd already made up my mind, even if I hadn't officially filed the papers yet. I told her it was over, that I couldn't trust her anymore, that she'd crossed a line from which she couldn't come back. She yelled, calling me a selfish bastard, a loser, all because I was throwing away a good marriage over some stupid affair. But I knew the truth. I wasn't the one who threw away anything. She did. She betrayed me, lied to my face, and thought she could manipulate her way out of it. That was her mistake. I wasn't going to be some doormat anymore. In the quiet moments after she left, I sat alone and looked at the evidence I'd compiled. It was a bitter pill to swallow, knowing I'd been blind for so long, that I'd trusted her even when the signs were right in front of me. But at the same time, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd finally seen who she really was, and I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage anymore. Not after the way she'd treated me, not after she'd betrayed everything we built. As I write this, I realize I'm at a crossroads. The pain is still raw, but I also feel a strange sense of strength. I know it's going to be a long road ahead, dividing our lives, dealing with the heartbreak, and rebuilding myself from scratch. But I also know I'm done playing the fool. I've learned some harsh lessons about trust, about who people really are beneath their masks. I don't regret uncovering the truth. It's better to face it now than live in denial. I just hope one day I can look back and realize this was a turning point, not the end of everything. For anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you love someone or how much you want things to be different, because in the end, the truth always comes out. And if it doesn't, you'll find out sooner or later. The important thing is to stand your ground, protect yourself, and remember that you deserve honesty and respect, no matter what anyone tries to tell you. The divorce went through faster than I expected, and honestly, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. It was like finally pulling off a heavy weight that had been crushing me for months. Lisa moved out, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. I didn't wish her ill or anything. I just wanted peace, away from her manipulation and lies. Max was a huge comfort. His loyalty never wavered, and he knew something had changed, but he still stayed close, always by my side. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding my life. I cut out most contact with Lisa, only communicating through the lawyer about the divorce logistics. I knew I'd been naive for a long time, trusting her blindly, but now I saw her for what she was, a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. I learned a lot. About myself, about how I let her control parts of my life for too long. It's not easy to admit I was blind, but I also realized I was holding on to a version of marriage that was long gone. I deserved better, and I finally started to see that. Living alone has been tough, but it's also been freeing. Max and I spend more time together, long walks, quiet nights at home, just appreciating the simple things that I'd taken for granted when I was caught up in her chaos. I've started to reconnect with friends and even consider seeing someone new someday, but I'm in no rush. Right now, I just want to heal, to trust myself again, and to remember that I'm worth honesty and respect. Looking back, I realize this whole ordeal has been a brutal lesson in trust, boundaries, and self-respect. I don't regret uncovering the truth because, in the end, it set me free from a toxic situation. Lisa's betrayal showed me that sometimes the people closest to us can hurt us the most, but we also have the power to walk away and rebuild. It's not easy, and I won't pretend I'm completely over it. There are days when I feel angry or sad, but I remind myself that I've survived and I will continue to survive. If I could give anyone advice from what I've learned, it's this: pay attention to the signs. Don't ignore the little things: phone calls, sneaky texts, changes in behavior. Trust your gut. And most importantly, don't be afraid to walk away from someone who betrays you. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much history you have, if they've crossed a line, you owe it to yourself to protect your peace. Because in the end, the only person responsible for your happiness is you. And if someone isn't willing to respect that, then they don't deserve a place in your life. This experience, as painful as it's been, has made me stronger. I'm not perfect, and I still have wounds to heal, but I know I'll come out on the other side better, wiser. For now, I'm focusing on myself, on Max, and on finding a way to trust again. That's all I can do. And I know one day I'll look back at this chapter as the moment I finally took control, no longer a victim of her lies, but a man who chose his own truth.